It's another edition of Time About the Movies. Today we're taking a look at the films of October 18, 2002. And thankfully we don't have as many movies as we had yesterday because, man, I was lucky that I was able to get that down to at least under a half an hour. I was impressed that I was able to do that. But we have 5 movies to look at today. Still a lot of movies, but like I said, not as much as we had yesterday. So I've wasted already enough of your time as it is. So let's go ahead and just jump into it. And we'll start off with the biggest new release of the weekend, and that is the remake of The Ring. The remake, of course, of the 1998 Hideo Nakata film from Japan, and this is, of course, this is actually based off of a novel by Koji Suzuki, which a lot of people don't really know about. They just think that this is just a remake of the movie, but this is actually based off of a book as well, where you have Naomi Watts playing a journalist who discovers a cursed videotape that kills the viewer 7 days after viewing it. And of course, she tries to figure out ways to stop the curse, and even when she thinks she does it, it leads to unforeseen circumstances for everyone that's involved with her, including her son and this guy that she's interested in, played by Martin Henderson. And it's directed by Gore Verbinski, and I gotta say, man, this is a film that you would think would not hold up after all these years later, because the whole thing is about the idea of videotapes and how the idea that this thing could come out and kill you. And I gotta say, this thing still holds up after so many years. Like, even though we've gone past the age of videotape, even by today's standards, this is a film that still holds up on a number of different levels. This movie is terrifying in a lot of good ways. Like, it's a film that holds no bounds, and for a PG-13 movie to get away with as much stuff as they do in this film is pretty impressive. I mean, this film is a masterpiece of horror. Like, this is a film that builds up the suspense, builds up the tension. The atmosphere in this movie is incredible. The visual appeal of the film, even though it's a very bleak film for the most part in terms of the visual style, it still holds up. The cinematography is great. The acting overall is still well done. For Gore Verbinski, this is another one of those guys that he finds a way to make movies, great films, without just sticking to one specific genre. He can do so many different genres, and this is one of the end results of it. He can make a great film like this, and like I said, it still holds up in the scare factor. I mean, there are scenes in this movie that are still terrifying to this very day. Like the way the film begins, the idea, of course, of the fact that this tape kills people after 7 days. You see it in the beginning that it kills somebody, and you don't get to see it at first. But when they build up to that moment, when you realize that the love interest Naomi Watts has in this movie realizes that he's watched the tape, it's been 7 days, and this is after the fact that she thought that, okay, she helped her, okay, the curse is lifted now, and even her son is telling her, why did you help her? And of course, guess what happens? The girl comes out of the videotape. When you actually see that girl coming out of the well and coming out of the TV, it's one of the most terrifying things ever. It still holds up, and like, it's still a chilling scene. Like, you just watch this and you're just like you're scared out of your mind. I was scared the first time I saw it. I almost jumped when she was able to flash in one area and then come closer to another area. It's just like this is a really scary movie and a film that still holds up on a number of different levels. And it's just like, yeah, it's a film that still holds up. It's a great film. I wish it would have led to some pretty good sequels, but everything that came after this, it's a horror franchise, so they're gonna try to milk it as much as they can, and it's not gonna end up having the same lasting impact that the first film did. This film still holds up on a number of different levels, and it's a great film. I can't recommend it enough. If you have not seen The Ring, do yourself a favor and watch it. It's definitely worth it. Even if you're not a horror movie fan, it still holds up on so many different levels. So that is The Ring, and let's go ahead and take a look at our next movie, and that is Katie Holmes and Benjamin Bratt in Abandon. So you see, Katie Holmes plays a college student whose boyfriend, played by Jack from Sons of Anarchy. I did not know that was Charlie Hunnam. He disappears 2 years previously, and despite being set at an American university, most of the film was set in Canada, and of course it leads to a lot of things involving including the detective investigating the boyfriend's disappearance, played by Benjamin Bratt. You also have Zoe Deschanel and Gabrielle Union and Melanie Linsky among the cast as well. I did not know this. This was written and directed by Stephen Gagnon, whose next film was the really, really criminally underrated film Syriana, and then his career kind of got destroyed many years after that because of Doolittle, which was Definitely not up to the high levels that he would have had as a filmmaker. But you know what? I'd still rather watch Doolittle than watch this movie again, because other than the decent cast they have in here, this is a pretty generic psychological thriller. I mean, you don't really know exactly, like, who you're supposed to get behind here. And like I said, you can kind of figure out where it's going to go right from the get-go. Then the story really isn't all that interesting and all that clever, which is surprising that it's made by the same person that made Syriana, because that film was so well written and so well directed. Meanwhile, this film is just like, I don't know what they were thinking here. But then again, it was his first directorial ever, so maybe that's just one of those things where it needed another film to really get his material going, if you will. But yeah, the movie itself is pretty bad. It's not really all that interesting. You don't really get behind the characters all that much. The mystery is not that engaging. The villainous threat in the film is not really all that interesting as well. I've never read the book this is based off of, but apparently it took a lot from the book that wasn't actually in the book, from what I've heard. So, yeah, not much more to say about this one. I'm not really a particular fan of this one, so abandoned. I'll go ahead and abandon that one and go ahead on to the next movie, and that is, if I can find it, Formula 51. Or in some places, they call this the 51st State. I don't know why in particular. I guess they mentioned up in the movie here, but you have Samuel L. Jackson as an American master chemist who heads to Britain to sell his formula for a powerful new drug. All does not go as planned, as the chemist soon becomes entangled in the web of deceit. In addition to him, you have Robert Carlyle, Emily Mortimer, Sean Pertwee, Reese Ifans, Meatloaf is in the cast as well. Directed by Ronnie Yu, who gave us Bride of Chucky and will later give us Freddy vs. Jason the following year. As far as the film itself goes, it really doesn't know exactly who it wants to appeal to. Because you got a lot of British actors in here, a lot of people from stuff like Snatch and Trainspotting, movies with these very unique and distinctive styles to it that make them stand out alone. And then you have Samuel L. Jackson thrown into this particular film, and it feels like a film that's trying to rip off Trainspotting and Snatch in a number of different ways. Like, it's trying to be like what Guy Ritchie does with his movies, and we just talked about how bad of a Guy Ritchie film can be last week with Swept Away. With this movie, it's just kind of like, it really doesn't know the tone it wants to take, what direction it wants to take, and I think it stumbles because of it. It feels like a film that doesn't know if they want to sell it to the British audiences more, or they want to sell it more to the American audiences, because you've got Samuel L. Jackson at the forefront of it. It's one I remember seeing a long time ago, and from what I remember, I don't remember really liking it all that much. So, again, not much more to say about that one, Formula 51. So let's go ahead and move on to our next movie, and that is Real Women Have Curves. Real Women Have Curves is the story of Anna, played by America Ferrera. This was before she found success with Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants, and then also Ugly Betty. I think I said last time, I hope I didn't say this, but I think I did, that she was in Bend It Like Beckham too. I got that completely wrong. Off the cuff stuff there, but that is not her in Bend It Like Beckham. If I said that, I apologize. If not, just forget what I just said. But she plays Anna, a first-generation Mexican-American teenager on the verge of becoming a woman. She lives in the predominantly Latino community of East Los Angeles, freshly graduated from high school. Anna receives a full scholarship to Columbia University. Her very traditional old-world parents feel that now is the time for Anna to help provide for her family, not the time for college. Torn between her mainstream ambitions and cultural heritage, she agrees to work with her mother at her sister's downtown LA sewing factory. Over the summer, she learns to admire the hardworking team of women who teach her solidarity and teamwork. Still at odds with her mother expects of her, Anna realizes that leaving home to continue her education is essential to finding her place proudly in the world of an Americana and a Chicana. And, like I said, this is one of the early film roles for America Ferrera. I think this is her first feature film, and you really do get to see that promise that she has as an actress going forward with all the movies and shows that will follow with her. And she definitely shows a lot about it. It also does a very good job of handling the idea of body positivity. A film like this is very, very interesting to have, especially when you consider that a lot of movies want to have the most beautiful looking woman out there. And this film does a very good job of handling that situation with the idea that, hey, we're fine with looking as good as we do, despite the fact that we don't look like the Maxim Playboy models that you see all over these various movies. And good cast overall here. George Lopez, I thought, was surprisingly really good in this film. You also have Lupe Ontiveros, who's been in a lot of stuff, mostly Desperate Housewives for the later audiences, but she's also been in a number of different other things that you might be familiar with once you see her face. It's Rosalita, also in The Goonies as well. She was also in Selena. I mean, she's been in a number of different movies and TV shows. She's usually been very good in everything that she's been in. It's a really good film. It's a really interesting film that has a lot of different ideas of how the world works and how America Ferrera's character has to decide her future, and it gives you a lot of what you want here. It doesn't feel like the emotional moments are very manipulative. Everything feels earnest. You feel like you're getting a lot more from it than you would expect from it, and I think it's a very well-made film. It's a well-made film that shows a lot of good heart to it, teaches a lot of people a lesson, and is very motivational for a number of different reasons. It's a really good film, and I do recommend it. It's a very underrated film, too. I definitely say check it out if you can find it. Real Women Have Curves. So with that said, moving on to our last movie here, we have Autofocus with Greg Kinnear. Autofocus is a film directed by Paul Schrader, and okay, I'm not going to do that voice throughout this review. Every year, I seem to do a different video doing the old guy voice for Paul Schrader whenever he puts up a Facebook post or a social media post, because it really does sound like a bitter old man, like Old Man Yells at Cloud, the meme from The Simpsons, but that's why I did that thing in the beginning, because he definitely sounds like the type of person that would be at his typewriter, like Grandpa Simpson, talking about how things aren't the way they used to be, that type of stuff. But, okay, I promised I wasn't going to do that anymore. But Autofocus is a story about it's a dramatized story of actor Bob Crane, played here by Greg Kinnear, who is an affable radio show host and amateur drummer who found success on the series Hogan's Heroes, and his dramatic descent into the underbelly of Hollywood. After the series was canceled, he forms a friendship with his video photographer, John Carpenter, not the John Carpenter, played by Willem Dafoe, and of course the chaos ensues afterwards. And as much as I criticize Paul Schrader for how he says some things nowadays, he's still a good director. This is definitely one of those examples of him working with what he can do best, and he has a great cast to work with here. Not just Kinnear and Dafoe, but Rita Wilson, Maria Bello, Ron Lieberman, Kurt Fuller, Ed Begley Jr., Michael McKean, and it's a very interesting story, like the troubling history of Bob Crane. If you haven't heard about this story, do your research. You don't even need to do research on it, because I think this movie does a pretty good job of handling that in the darkest way possible. I mean, it does not pull any punches back. I mean, it pulls out all the stops and says, we're just going to go through and just give you the cold hard truth, and it is really something intense to watch. It's a good, fun, dark comedy in a way that's also more of a drama as well. But it just finds a way to combine all those elements together and make for a film that is very, very interesting to watch. And you get so fascinated by the story that you really want to do research on your own with a movie like this. And it's just like, it's just a great film. It's a very intense movie. Even if you don't know too much about Bob Crane yourself, you will want to learn more about him after watching this movie. I highly recommend checking it out. Autofocus. So with that said, we wrap up another edition of Time About the Movies. And the next time we meet, we'll wrap October up with 6 more movies, including Jackass the movie. We also have the horror film Ghost Ship, Mark Wahlberg starring in The Truth About Charlie, Paid in Full, Salma Hayek and Frida, and also Billy Bob Thornton and Patrick Swayze in Waking Up in Reno. So 6 films to look at next time around. We'll delve into those on the next episode. But until then, thank you so much for watching, and if you want to see more videos like this, please hit the plays on the next page, check out the previous episode, and also don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button if you want to see more videos like this on this channel. On that note, don't go too far away, because coming up on Time About the Movies Flashback, we have a look back at April 22nd, 1988. We'll take a look at the comedy Casual Sex, The Unholy, A Time of Destiny, Lady in White, Stormy Monday, White Mischief, and Mondo, New York. We'll take a look at those 7 films on Time About the Movies Flashback, which will be coming up right after this.